Is this a normal day for you?
More or less.
Every day there is mine, bomb, rocket. Everything is going back.
Somebody's targeting the civilians.
You don't know what will happen.
RPGs?
Yeah.
So the black smoke you see is, we think, from a suicide bomber who blew himself up outside the gates of the NDS, which is Afghan intelligence. Those studs you can hear now are RPGs, probably fired from the Afghan army towards the attackers. They're saying there are 5 Pakistanis still there. They're saying that 8 attackers got inside the NDS HQ here. And that 6 of them were killed and 2 of them were still alive until a minute ago. They're now saying it's finished and that they'll take us in to see if they killed them. For the West, the war may be all but over in Afghanistan. But for those being left behind, it's entering its deadliest phase so far. And for journalists, access to that war is getting harder too.
The insurgents are alive there.
Still?
Yes, still.
After hours of pounding the building with rockets, Afghan commandos went room to room, finishing off any insurgents who were still alive.
They are saying stop recording. You know, they are not allowed.
We've got all the permissions from the Minister of Defence, Minister of Interior, everyone. They can't actually stop us.
The ground force commander.
So the withdrawal of foreign combat troops is almost complete now. But they're not leaving behind a country which is safe and secure and where the Taliban have been beaten or even slowed down. The Taliban are taking more and more territory all the time and carrying out bigger and bolder attacks all the time. And while we seem to be burying our heads in the sand about what's happening here, the failure in Afghanistan is meaning that the people here are paying a higher and higher price.
What are they shooting at?
I've been covering the war in Afghanistan for 7 years. Even with American and British troops alongside them, the Afghan National Security Forces often fired indiscriminately. Now, desperately trying to hold off mass Taliban attacks alone, the fighting is spiraling out of control. Increasingly, innocent civilians are caught between those Afghan forces and the Taliban, neither of whom seem to care about who their bullets and rockets might hit. We travel to Helmand, the most violent province in Afghanistan. More troops and resources were sent here than anywhere else in the country. And yet, there are only 2 hospitals in the entire province. One of them is run by a foreign charity named Emergency. The hospital is operating at full capacity. I took a tour of the hospital with Dimitra Giannakopoulou, a Greek volunteer and long-serving medical coordinator. And how often are new patients arriving?
On a bad day, 30 patients per day.
30 per day on a bad day?
On a bad day, yes.
Can you just talk about the numbers of patients who have been admitted over the last 3 years?
The last 3 years, we've seen a major increase in 2013. 2013 had 2,100 admissions, and that was a 70% increase on the previous year. 2014, it is increasing as well. We are around 1,700 surgical admissions, and we are on half the year.
If people keep getting killed and injured at this rate, 2014 will have seen a 50% increase in civilian casualties on the previous year.
We have moved the pharmacy into an outside building, and we made a ward, and this was the playroom, and we have made it a ward as well.
So you're over capacity now?
Yeah, we are almost 30 beds over.
30 beds. But every room that was serving some other function is now a ward. And if it keeps on getting worse, can you manage?
When we come very close to being in full capacity, then we start to narrow the criteria to life-saving. Brain injury and thoracic and abdominal and vascular. Once you've done that, and again you're on full capacity.
But the numbers are still going up?
Yes. It makes me crazy to not be able to take somebody in. For beds, you'll do anything.
Afghanistan خلقيني بسالات كده. تاسرع. مانغام بجانغوا چولو سر رو داد تكتك.
Are the injuries from fighting between the Afghan army and the Taliban, are they increasing because they fire quite wildly?
We've seen a lot of collateral injuries. We have an increase in what we call mine injury and shell injury. They are from explosive devices, IEDs, and they're very, very vicious. There is an increase of bilateral amputations, of very high amputations, traumatic amputations that are arriving.
When someone steps on an IED, the damage is getting worse. It's double or triple amputations rather than...
Double or triple. And a lot of children as well.
Western forces aren't leaving behind a stable country, with the government able to protect its own people. According to the UN, at least 295 children were killed and 776 injured in the first 6 months of this year alone. He wants to show you his leg. Did you see anything, or it just looked like the normal ground? If someone steps on an IED, they have to get treated very, very quickly, right?
They do give you some time. They are very explosive. They burn you while also mangling you. This burning controls the bleeding in a strange way. This gives you time. This is our pediatric female ward. Shells, bullets.
This is all just kids caught in the crossfire between...
Caught in the crossfire, yes.
So you've got 2 kids here who have been shot in the head in the last few days.
Yes.
Where did it enter?
It's here.
And you said there have been more kids with bullet injuries to the head?
Yes, in these days, 5 in the last few days. Yes.
Bullets to the head?
In the last 3, yes. 1 died. He's a bullet to the head as well. This guy, shell injury to the skull. Bas, Nurak bed, bas.
They've all come in fairly recently, so this is all fighting between the Taliban and the Afghan security forces? Or the Afghan security forces and the Afghan security forces? While we were there, one of the children who had been shot in the head woke up. Dimitra showed us an entire family who had been hit. The women asked to be covered before we came in.
She lost one of the children in the ICU and another one in the ambulance ride coming. She lost both in the ambulance coming and one she left dead behind.
What happened?
It was a blast in their house.
A shell?
They say RPG, no, I don't know exactly what that means, but something accidentally landed to them. They are a family.
Wow. And the whole family's all in Sangin?
Yes, they're in Sangin.
Yeah.
This is Bibi. She's 60, she's doing very well. She's also discharged in the next few days, but she got bilateral amputation. At 60, to lose both your legs.
Most of the injuries we saw were bullet or shell injuries. So for the first time in years, the injuries from crossfire have gone up and are the main cause of injury and death among Afghans because the Taliban and Afghans fire so wildly at each other. Is this a normal day for you?
More or less.
And you performed a surgery today on a young girl where you had to remove lots of shrapnel. Can you describe what you had to do today?
The young girl, maybe she's 6 years old. She received multiple serious injury to the abdomen and also inside of the brain as well. We operated him. There was multiple perforation of the small bowel, through and through. And his stomach was also perforated, which we repaired. And the skull was open fractured, but closure up.
Do you ever think, this is your country and you're seeing the situation getting worse? How does that make you feel, just on a personal level?
Since I'm far from political point, I cannot tell you why it's getting worse. Most of the day, we are just going to hospital and house. Maybe for many, many days, we will not change the road because a lot of work. Yeah.
Every night, there is really a lot of fighting. Tonight, the Taliban's got 3 checkpoints, and the next night, the army managed to retrieve them. And
if you spoke to people in Europe and in America, especially the politicians, they would say the Taliban have been pushed backwards, the Afghan security forces are taking over, and some of them are even saying, we've achieved our goals, mission accomplished.
Well, somebody's targeting the civilians, is all I can say to them.
Because of the worsening security situation, the foreign emergency staff work behind the walls of the hospital and rest behind the walls of their communal house. The only time they actually see daily life in Afghanistan is during the short journey between the two places.
In the last 2-3 months, it was a disaster. Every day there is mine, bomb, rocket, explosion. Everything is going back.